2:30. Like, share, subscribe, leave a comment. Shout out to my new subscribers. I really appreciate you. We're going to get right into it because I'm working in the morning. I'm doing both jobs tomorrow on Sunday. So, my leg has been kind of sore. So, what up, YouTube? What up? What's going on? But we're going to have a Christmas giveaway. I don't celebrate pagan holidays, but I'm going to do a cash giveaway for Christmas. I'm just here to tell you. Now, when I did my last, if Zohran Mamdani get in as New York City mayor, he is going to destroy New York City. The man never even had a real job. He been here 7 years or 8 years. How the hell can he run America's largest city and then the financial capital of the world in New York City? But a lot of firms have have moved to Miami now. Unbelievable. But this is the plan of the Illuminati to bring in communism. And once Islam takes over, and they don't even realize they're being used by the powers that be. Because once that becomes what you see what's happened over in Europe, then they're going to usher in the Antichrist and they're going to crush Islam. Watch what I tell you. I don't know if I'll still be alive then, but we in some serious, serious times. New York City mayor's race. Charges of divisive tactics loom over campaign's final weekend. Zohran Mamdani, the Democratic frontrunner, spoke about attacks on his race and religion, while Andrew Cuomo, an independent, accused Mr. Mamdani of divisiveness. Former President Barack Obama called Mr. Mamdani to praise his campaign. Of course he would, because he's a Marxist as well. Zohran Mamdani and Andrew Cuomo accused each other on Saturday of sowing division among New Yorkers as the three-way mayoral race is headed into home stretch. Mr. Mamdani, the Democratic nominee and clear frontrunner in polls, who is vying to be the city's first Muslim mayor, said that Mr. Cuomo had amplified anti-Islamic attacks against him. Mr. Cuomo, the former New York governor running in second place as an independent, insisted that if it was Mr. Mamdani, an outspoken critic of Israel, who was driving a wedge among New Yorkers. Oh. New Yorkers could pick a political newcomer to run their city and take on Trump. Trump ain't gonna give y'all no funding. And he talking about taxes and the rich. We'll see how many businesses stay in New York City. Higher taxes, we'll see. It's already Gotham City. Mamdani walked the streets of the Upper East Side for a campaign event to greet early voters. He could barely walk a few steps without being stopped by his supporters. Two smiling young women looked starstruck until they followed him on Instagram. The millennial Democratic nominee for mayor thanked them before posing with another young man. Mm, mm, mm.
We are just 4 days away from Election Day, but voters in New York City, New Jersey, Virginia, and California have already hit the polls for early voting. Among the notable races, New York City's mayoral contest, gubernatorial races in New Jersey and Virginia, and the special election in California over whether Democrats can redraw their state's congressional map. CBS News producer Jared Ochacher is following the closely watched New York City mayoral race. Frontrunner Zohran Mamdani, former Governor Andrew Cuomo, and Guardian Angels founder Curtis Sliwa are making their final push for votes.
Juliet, here in New York City, we are a few days away from the mayoral election, and a week into early voting, around 500,000 people have already cast their ballots. The latest polls released this week show that Democratic nominee Zohran Mamdani has a commanding double-digit lead over his opponents, Independent Andrew Cuomo and Republican Curtis Sliwa. These three candidates have different platforms and unique final approaches. While up in the polls, Mamdani is cautioning his supporters against becoming complacent and urging his over 90,000 volunteers to continue canvassing and phone banking. Cuomo has received support from high-profile endorsements from former Mayor Mike Bloomberg and even across the aisle with Republican Congressman Nick Langworthy. I spoke with the congressman today who told me that he sees Cuomo as the only viable candidate with an opportunity to defeat Mamdani. The congressman expressed his concerns about Mamdani's affiliation with the Democratic Socialists of America. And Sliwa has famously refused to drop out of the race despite calls from wealthy donors and other politicians. Sliwa says he'll let the voters decide, not outsiders. He highlighted his message to voters this week at a press conference, saying that even if a Mack truck hits him and turns him into a speed bump, his name will still appear on the ballot. Back to you.
I think he should have dropped out. That's my personal opinion, because he wasn't going to win. Jonathan Turr, why New York City's Zohran Mamdani looks more and more like a Marxist? Because he is. That's why. Zohran Mamdani was officially certified as the winner of the June 24th Democratic mayoral primary mayoral primary. New York Governor Andrew Cuomo, on his way to victory there, is still sending shockwaves through the Democratic Party establishment. Recently, PolitiFact declared that it was false that Zohran Mamdani is a communist. Yes, the fuck he is. This was in response to President Donald Trump's calling him a 100% communist lunatic. PolitiFact characterized the use of the label by Trump and others as a red scare tactic that has existed in the United States for decades. He is a communist. I have repeatedly discussed the bias and sometimes false conclusions of PolitiFact. On this occasion, PolitiFact may have once again been too quick on the trigger to denounce Trump and conservatives. However, it appears that Mamdani may be Marxist based on recently revealed comments he has made. In one speech before the Young Democratic Socialists of America, Mamdani even states matter-of-factly how one of the goals is to seize the means of a production in America. Right now, if we're talking about cancellation of student debt, if we're talking about Medicare for all, these are issues which have groundswell of popular support across the country. But then there are also other issues that we firmly believe in, whether it's BDS or whether it's the end goal of seizing the means of production. That does not sound like soft socialism, but fairly hardcore. He is a communist. And he's going to destroy New York City. That's a fact. Mamdani is the perfect product of extreme American left. Yes, he is. He is a phototype of what some of us been writing about regarding radicalization of higher education among elite colleges and universities. It's indoctrination. That's what school is. It's an indoctrination camp. Polls show increasing support among young people for socialism or even communism. Mamdani's victory in the Democratic primary has fooled by promises of free buses, free health care, free daycare, as well as city-run grocery stores. He promised to make Halil $8 again. Well, yeah, let's see how you gonna do that, cause who gonna pay for it? It ain't free. It ain't free. When we talk about my politics, I call myself a democratic socialist in many ways, inspired by the words of Dr. Martin Luther King. And people get mad, but if you look at Martin Luther King was a socialist as well. From decades who said call it democracy, call it democratic socialism, there has to be a better distribution of wealth for all of God's children. Yeah, let's see how you gonna do that. He would be the first child from a fluent, privileged background to embrace Marxism in my forthcoming book, Rage in the Republic. He has never had a job. I don't see how he gonna run New York. So then something came out where he wants to replace private homes with communal living. So now here goes one of the tenets of the Illuminati to abolish private property. Agenda 2030. You will own nothing but be happy. In the 2021 video, Mamdani urges fellow socialists at a conference to not compromise on goals like seizing the mean of production. In a second interview released on YouTube, Mamdani discussed the need to turn housing from private commodity to a public one, calling for luxury condos to be replaced with communal style living that will include things like shared laundry facilities and food co-ops. Now, how you gonna do that? Why do so many people end up homeless? It's not because there aren't enough homes to go around. There are plenty of empty homes. No, it's because housing people is not a primary goal of developers or landlords. Their goal simply is to make a profit. If we want to end the housing crisis, he says, the solution has to be moving toward full decommunization of housing. In other words, moving away from status quo in which most people access housing by purchasing on the market into a future where we guarantee high quality housing to all human rights. This is really, really scary. Oh, God. Oh, that's 200. We in some scary times. Uh-oh. Trump attacked Democratic Socialist Zohran Mamdani, who describes himself as a Democratic Socialist. Trump said, we're not going to have it. If a communist gets elected to New York City, it can never be the same. But we have tremendous power at the White House to run places when we have to. We could run D.C. We're looking at D.C. We don't want crime in D.C. So he said he will go into New York. Man, if that man get in, wow. We in trouble. We could see the Illuminati plans is coming to pass. We so close in this shit. I don't like none of them. But y'all know Eric Adams dropped out the race. Democrats secretly hope Republicans rep campaign to deport because Donald Trump has been saying he's going to try to get him deported. Zohran Mamdani is successful. Lawmaker claims. So some Democrats want him deported. I had a Democratic member of Congress come up to me on the House floor yesterday. He said, you know what, this is official where I'll say you're a horrible human being for targets or on New York. But the reality is we as Democrats hope you're successful because he's the worst thing that ever happened to our party. Yes, he is. There's a Democratic member of Congress coming to me, on the House floor thanking me for targeting his knucklehead because he's a social Marxist. He's going to destroy the city of New York. Yes, he is. Yes, he is. They're going to be running out of New York. Mm-hmm. Okay, hold on. We done with that. All right, let's get off into these videos. Where are you at, Mamdani? Let's get to the oldest one first. Oh, I got a lot of shit on there today. Oh, I want this one. What happened to my June? Oh, here you go. Normally this is already okay. Here we go.
Today is primary voting day in New York, and they have a hell of a choice.
This
they can
is
elect their
Larry
former
with
governor
Larry
and
O'Connor. I like him.
Andrew Cuomo, who resigned in disgrace because it was discovered that he had affairs with office workers and sexually harassed other staffers up in Albany. Plus, he was an incompetent tyrant during the COVID-19 pandemic that many people believe led to the deaths of thousands in nursing homes that he forced to take COVID positive patients to the most vulnerable. I mean, say what you will about the COVID-19 pandemic. One thing we knew very early on, and we certainly know now, is that the most vulnerable people who were most likely to die from that virus were the elderly and people with comorbidities.
Yep.
Andrew Cuomo forced COVID positive patients into nursing homes.
Yep, I remember that.
And he's the front runner for mayor of New York right now as he stages his political comeback. But the other guy who is vying for the Democrat nomination today, well, he's a full-on communist.
You can't make this up.
And he from Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, because he does TikTok videos and he's young. Oh, and he's a communist. Here's one of the aforementioned TikTok videos. He thinks that prices are too high in the grocery stores in New York. Dude, I mean, have you ever been to New York? Everything is more expensive in New York. But to tackle the food price problem, he's got a great idea. Something that always works. Have the government take them over.
Right.
Grocery prices are out of control. The cost of eggs and milk has skyrocketed. Some stores are even using dynamic pricing, jacking up the cost over the course of a day depending on what they can get away with. It doesn't need to be this way. I'm Zohran Mamdani, and as mayor, I will create a network of city-owned grocery stores. It's like a public option for produce. We will redirect city funds from corporate supermarkets to city-owned grocery stores, whose mission is lower prices, not price gouging. These stores will operate without a profit motive or having to pay property taxes or rent, and will pass on those savings to you.
Wow, what a guy.
Huh.
Gonna pass on those savings to you. But wait, isn't all of this money government money? So what do you mean savings, and what do you mean passing it on to us if it's our money in the first place? Let's start this from the beginning and break apart all of the lies that you were just told, because that's what communists do. They lie. Well, that's not the only thing they do. Then they kill you if you don't comply. That'll be next. But let's start with this.
Grocery prices are
Man,
out of
where's my
control. The
lighter?
cost of eggs and milk has skyrocketed.
Well,
Where's
actually,
my
the cost
lighter?
of eggs and milk have gone down recently because of supply and demand considerations. But it is amazing to me. If you notice that the entire 4 years of the Biden administration, nobody was talking about we were talking about the price of eggs and milk, but you wouldn't hear politicians talking about it. You wouldn't hear
You wouldn't hear nobody talk about it until Trump.
Kicking and screaming to have a conversation about the cost of milk and eggs. Now suddenly Donald Trump is president of the United States for 150 days, and all you're hearing about is how expensive everything is. When in fact the prices have come down. Certainly from where they were in the middle of the Biden administration. Okay, so the cost of eggs and milk have skyrocketed. So who's to blame for that?
Some stores are even using dynamic pricing, jacking up the cost over the course of a day depending on what they can get away with.
What they can get away with. Well, first of all, dynamic pricing is an interesting way to put it, and I would like to see some evidence or proof of that. But the fact of the matter is, if you've got a short supply of a product that everyone is wanting to purchase, and suddenly, yes, you can get more for that product because there's high demand and low supply, and there's nobody else on the block that has eggs or milk, well, then, yeah, I guess that is something that you could do. That, again, is the law of supply and demand. It's not corporate greed. It's not price gouging. Supply and demand. You want to fix it, then you get more supply. You don't control the supply, which is what he's suggesting. All right.
It doesn't need to be this way. I'm Zohran Mamdani, and as mayor, I will create a network of city-owned grocery stores.
City-owned grocery stores. I don't know if you've been to New York recently, but there is nothing that the government in New York does well and efficiently. And certainly not with you, the consumer, in mind. Just imagine what it would be like to go to a city-owned grocery store, because it'll be run and managed and staffed by the same people who, run the DMV and run the subways and run all of the other very efficient public services that New York City gives you. And also, by the way, they'll all be government employees with government benefits and government rules and government management. And this is my favorite part of the video, where he says it's like a public option.
It's like a public option for produce.
Did you see what happened there in the graphic? First, it shows you a public option for healthcare, but then it changes the hospital
For produce.
to a grocery store. Funny thing about the public option for healthcare, that's an idea that's been floating around, gosh, really for decades, and we've always rejected it. There is no such thing as a public option for healthcare right now in America, because the American people are repelled by the idea. We don't want to be beholden to the government for making decisions about our healthcare. about our doctor, about our needs and our medical needs. We've seen what happens in other countries. You try getting an MRI in Canada right now. Have you seen the horror stories there? So we don't want
Right, and we're not gonna have it.
Hospitals and our doctor's appointments, but no. We've got a better idea. How about a public option for the food you eat? And let's just be clear here, as he says, it's just an option. It'll just give people an opportunity, an outlet to be able to get their grocery at the city-owned grocery stores instead of those big, bad, mean, old corporate-owned supermarkets, which, by the way, last I was in New York, there really aren't any. Maybe Whole Foods.
Yep, and it's not. It's not. And it never really has been.
Former New York Governor Andrew Cuomo conceded the Democratic primary for mayor of New York City. 33-year-old lawmaker Zohran Mamdani appears poised to be the nominee. The primary race will still need to be formally decided by a ranked choice vote. Mamdani took a commanding lead in the vote after polls closed last night and then later declared victory, and Cuomo conceded.
Was not our night. Tonight was Assemblyman Mamdani's night, and he put together a great campaign, and he touched young people and inspired them and moved them and got them to come out and vote.
And it's where the mayor will use their power to reject Donald Trump's fascism, to stop mass ICE agents from deporting our neighbors.
Oh my God. See, another one of the... He was born in Uganda. He is not American natural born citizen. Boy, I'm telling you, only Americans should be in political positions, and that's a fact because we see what the hell is going on here. But this is all planned. All planned.
As you know by now, Democrats.
This is Larry with Larry. I like him.
33-year-old radical communist to be their nominee for mayor of New York City. We're going to give you all the details about who this person is and how dangerous he might be, and how he perfectly represents where the Democrats are right now as a political party. But the best part about what happened last night is the fact of who really voted for this guy, because it's very different than what you're hearing right now in cable news and broadcasting news. We'll tell you the truth about who really voted.
Watch what magnesium does to your bowels.
If you have to wipe more than 4 times after you poop, here's why.
The Mayo Clinic confirms that stuck poop can cause these embarrassing skid marks in your undies. You see, when stuck poop causes a traffic jam in your colon, your bowels become too full. And as the pressure builds up, liquefied stool leaks around the stuck hard poop and stains your underwear. So how can you clear out all that stuck poop so that you don't have to worry about skid marks anymore?
Oh, well, we sure didn't want to hear about poop, did we?
Governor Hochul in New York. These are people who have national ambitions. Hakeem Jeffries wants to be the Speaker of the House. Chuck Schumer wants his party to ascend again. What are they saying about what happened last night in New York? Let me tell you this. Play close attention to what just happened. Play close attention to what this man is saying right now and what he has said in the past. Starting tomorrow, his message is going to change radically. This is what happens. But pay close attention to this moment in time, because at this moment, the mask is off. Right? This is who they are. This is who the radical left in America is. This is what the Democrat Party is today in America. They are the most extreme and the most radical. The mask right now is off. Now, when they run in 2028, and in 2026, and most certainly when they run in 2028, the mask will be back on. Let me explain. In 2020,
That's a fact.
they needed a candidate to defeat
Facts.
Donald Trump and be the president of the United States. They could have gone with Bernie Sanders because that's who they are. They could have gone with Elizabeth Warren because that's who they are. But they realized they couldn't win nationwide with the mask off. So they had to put the mask on.
Come on, tell the
And they
truth.
got Joe Biden.
Yep.
Because Joe Biden, well, he's an old school Democrat. He's, like Clinton or even before him, like Hubert Humphreys. He goes way back. He's not radical. He's not crazy. He's not a socialist. And then he gets into office, and look at what he did. Look at how radical that president. He was more radical, I would argue, than Barack Obama. Because the mask was on for the election. Right now, the mask is off. They are showing you exactly who they are. Don't forget it. Because they're going to pretend. It's time to start pretending again. Everybody says, oh my gosh, in 2028, they're going to nominate somebody really wild, somebody really radical. They're going to nominate AOC. They're going to nominate, this guy, or they're going to nominate Kamala Harris again, or the Gavin Newsom, right? No, they're not. The closest they'll come is to Gavin Newsom because he can lie. He can put that mask on, and he can actually make you believe him because he is such a pathological sociopath that he can lie with impunity. But for the most part, most people can't lie like that. They can't put the mask on and take it off so easily. So they're probably going to nominate someone like Josh Shapiro. They're going to nominate someone like Mark Kelly. They're going to nominate somebody who can pretend until they get into office. And then they bring in the whole gang again. The whole gang who are currently working at the Center for American Progress, or they're working at some other NGO. They're making their money, and they're just waiting for the opportunity to get back into power again and do exactly what they do when they are in power. They take the mask off, and they radicalize this country.
Facts.
You just heard at his victory speech, he's not even running against Andrew Cuomo in the general election, or Eric Adams, or Curtis Sliwa, the other prominent names on the ticket. No, he's running against Donald Trump. Because when you're in New York City and you're pissed off about Donald Trump being in the White House, obviously you need to get a mayor who will fight the president, because that's what the mayor of New York does. But that's really what we're seeing play out here. So the question is, who really voted for this guy? You heard him just now say that people were voting because they want a more affordable New York, that they can't afford their rents or their cost of living or their groceries. And so we just wanted somebody to bring common sense solutions, common sense from the Leninist, Stalinist Soviet Union, to be able to make things more affordable. So you would think that it's the poor people in New York, the people who are barely making it, they can't get by, they're the ones who voted for this guy. That's what you'd think. But you'd be wrong. Actual analysis of the vote last night for Zohran Mamdani shows that those making under $50,000 living in New York, the poorest of the poor, who are hurt hardest by the cost of living in that city, the people who rely on city government benefits to be able to make it and survive, they overwhelmingly voted for Andrew Cuomo in the primary. Overwhelmingly. Those who are middle income in New York leaned more toward Mr. Mamdani.
Wow.
By a +6.
Wow.
Look at that number over to the side. The wealthiest of New Yorkers. The ones who live in the Upper West Side of Manhattan and Staten Island and the Upper East Side and in Brooklyn Heights, the high rent districts, the people who can afford to live there.
Drinking warm water before bed improves eyesight almost overnight. Thousands of people are already doing this every night as they sleep by adding one unusual ingredient to a glass of.
They overwhelmingly voted for the communists. They overwhelmingly voted for the socialists. Not because they need the government programs to make things more affordable, not because they want the benefits that he promised. They voted for him because they intellectually feel better about themselves because they did.
Wow.
He's a foreigner. He's a man of color.
He ain't no man of color. That's a lie.
Some New Yorkers are still celebrating Zohran Mamdani's win last night, seen as shaking up the status quo. He is now the presumptive Democratic candidate for New York City mayor in the fall, beating out former Governor Andrew Cuomo, who had the endorsements of Democratic heavyweights like Bill Clinton and Michael Bloomberg. But tonight, some Democrats across the country are rejecting the 33-year-old Mamdani and his progressive politics. Some Republicans are quick to use Mamdani to portray the Democrats as extremists. Radio host John Phillips is here to weigh in. John, of course, can be heard on KABC Radio on the John Phillips Show every day from noon to 3. Great to see you, John.
Thank you. Likewise.
All right, so what is your take on this very progressive mayor?
Well, he's beyond very progressive. He's
Right.
a self-described socialist. And not
Democratic socialist, they like to say.
Yes. Not in the mold of Bernie Sanders, but in the mold of what you learned about in political science school, where the government owns the means of production. One of the things that he said he wants to do is he wants the city of New York to own the supermarkets. Which, could you imagine what life would be like if the state of California owned supermarkets?
Oh my God.
Guinness Book World Record for a number of expired milk cartons sold, maybe, I don't know, periodicals would be more current at your dentist's office than at the grocery store. But that's what this guy is advocating for. And it's not the first time that something like this has happened. In fact, it happened here in California. And it happened when the writer, Upton Sinclair, another socialist, ran for governor. And he ran during the Great Depression when people were very worried about the economic future of the country and their families and everything else. And he ran on the EPIC program, the End Poverty in California, where he wanted the state of California to own film production. He wanted them to own the farms, the oil industry, everything. And he was on track, a dynamic kind of guy, a popular author, to win the election until the powers that be in California, which back then was William Randolph Hearst, the Chamber family, and Louis B. Mayer, they basically kneecapped him and said, we cannot allow the state to be destroyed.
Yeah.
And I think what you're going to see in New York is something similar to that, where New York City is where many of the financial houses are headquartered. There's a lot of money in New York City, a lot of people whose livelihoods will be threatened should this guy be elected.
Facts.
You're going to see them get together.
Facts. That's why I was so shocked. That he even made it this far. I was really shocked.
Bro, this man tried to ban ICE from New York, called them Trump fascist agents, and now ICE might literally deport him. You can't make this up. Now, this goes way deeper than most people realize, from tax scandals to ties to anti-American groups to now
Like,
actual
share, subscribe.
deportation violence.
Hit the like button.
Watch this from start to finish, because if you miss a piece, you won't understand how insane this really is. Tom Homan, take it away.
Mayor candidate, he hasn't won yet, but he won the Democratic primary, Zohran Mamdani. So he's saying, I mean, this is incredible. He's vowed to kick the, quote, fascist ICE out of New York City, okay? So,
And he
how do you
can't do
intend to
that.
deal with that? Because I would guess there are going to be a lot of criminals and Iranian cells and whatnot in New York City. The job's not done there. What do you say to this guy?
Good luck with that. Federal law.
I know that's right.
Him
Every which way. Federal law.
Matter of fact, because it's a sanctuary city, President Trump made it clear a week and a half ago. We're going to double down and triple down on sanctuary cities. If we can't arrest a bad guy in the county jail, one agent arresting one bad guy, they release him in the streets like New York does every day. We got to send a whole team to look for this guy. And not only that, we're going to send additional teams to look for all the people they arrest. We're going to concentrate in sanctuary cities because we know they're releasing public safety threats and national security threats back to the street. So we know we got a problem there. So we don't have that problem in Florida with most sheriffs work for us. So we're going to double up and triple up on New York. And not only are we going to send more agents to the neighborhood, we're going to increase worksite enforcement tenfold.
As you should.
If we can't arrest them in the jail, you're going to force them in the neighborhood, then we'll find them in the neighborhood.
That's right.
If we can't find them in the neighborhood, we'll find them at the worksite.
That's
so
right.
Come on, we're coming.
My guy's tripling.
That's right.
ICE doesn't care what this man says. Not even.
Federal law trumps state and city, local law all day long. You can't stop them from coming. These people are so dumb. I mean, I don't even know what to say about the American people.
Radical socialist Zohran Mamdani now could face
This is Professor Nez. I love him.
as Representative Andy Ogle's has just sent a formal request to Attorney General Pam Bondi requesting him to be subject to denaturalization proceedings and deported. I've got a lot to share with you today. I'm going to go through that big news story today. We also have a former CBS reporter, Liz Collins, telling Tucker Carlson that CBS forced reporters to tone down
Let me get to Zohran.
Check this out. As you can see at the bottom of your screen, it says this post is unavailable. I actually shared this post in my last video where Zohran Mamdani, again, this is the radical socialist. He has the most communistic Bolshevik ideas. He wants to create public government-run grocery stores. That should tell you everything you need to know about this guy. He also posted this, and then now has since deleted it, saying we don't need an investigation to know that the NYPD is racist, anti-queer, and a major threat to public safety. What we need is to defund the NYPD. But your deal with the mayor uses budget tricks to keep as many cops as possible on the beat. No to fake cuts. Defund the police. So apparently,
New York City already got
we
him.
all know the Democrats don't stand for anything.
It's gonna
They
be
don't have
so
anything
much
to
worse
say.
if he
They have
get
no
in.
conviction in their ideals. They have no strategy, nothing, no solutions whatsoever. But he's smart enough to realize that defunding the police was the absolute most atrocious idea that ever came out of the Democrat caucus leadership or what have you. And he deleted this post, right? So that should really tell you all you need to know. What's really scary, and I'm going to share you a quick clip of Eric Adams, what he calls Zohran Mamdani. What should really scare everybody is that all the Democrats are now jumping on the Mamdani train. Check this out. This is former President Bill Clinton who posted this. Congratulations to Zohran Mamdani on your victory in yesterday's primary election and a well-run campaign. I'm wishing you much success in November and beyond as you work to bring New York.
And then he flip-flopped and supported Cuomo. You can't make this up. Okay, let me go back to this article. July 19th. Mark Cuban says some of the New York City mayoral candidate Zohran Mamdani's key policies don't have a chance. And they don't, because he's not going to work. He said, I don't even understand the Jews sometimes. 30% of Jewish voters voted for this guy last week in New York, said Mark Cuban. Mamdani had refused to condemn the phrase globalization and infantile, which had been seen as a call to violence against Jews during the Democratic primary race. When pressed by Big Apple business leaders during a meeting, Mamdani said he would not use anti-Israel phrase and would discourage others from doing so, according to the attendees. If I told you how bullish I was, I have never been more excited about the future of America than I am right now. He noted that Trump's strike on the Iranian nuclear facilities as a symbol that America's here, and when our interests are at risk, we're going to do something about it. Logan tore into Zohran Mamdani, the 33-year-old socialist. Oh, excuse me. Cuban compared some of Mamdani's campaign tactics to Trump's and said they were unrealistic. Cuban told BI in a statement that he doesn't plan to endorse any other mayoral candidates. Mamdani's victory in the primary has thrown New York City's business world into chaos. That is a fact. Mark Cuban thinks New York City mayoral candidate Zohran Mamdani and President Donald Trump has something in common. Radically different politics aside. Mamdani has promised to freeze rent on all stable house apartments in the city, replace members of Rent Guidelines Board with people who will freeze rents every year of his term. He has pledged for city-owned grocery stores that do not have to pay rent or property taxes and can pass on savings to shoppers. Let's see how you're going to make that work. The guy is walking and telling me he's going to walk on water. He's going to make me more money. He's going to save me money. He's going to make my life better, Cuban said. How he thinks some New Yorkers understand Mamdani's proposal. He said the tactic is Trump 101. It is true. Does it matter? Until we see actual process and plans to actually implement a promise, I look at his and all campaign promises as nothing more than promises. He said Americans now vote for policies that they think could help them, even if there's no evidence they could possibly happen. We're going to do X and someone else will pay for it. That seems to be the path of least resistance to getting votes of any office. Cuban told BI that he doesn't plan to publicly support any other mayoral candidate since he's not a New York City resident. Representatives from Mamdani did not comment. Mamdani has thrown some of New York City's business world into chaos. High-profile corporate leaders have publicly come out against him, and several spent big bucks trying to make sure someone else got the Democratic nomination. The 33-year-old mayor hopeful said billionaires shouldn't exist. Cuban is worth $5.7 billion according to Forbes, but that he looks forward to working with everyone, including billionaires, to make a city far better. You can't have it both ways. Either you hate billionaires, you're not going to deal with them, but you got to deal with them because they got the businesses, idiot. Cuban is far from the only non-New Yorker talking about the race. Venture capitalist Sean McGuire recently rocked the tech world with controversial comments about Mamdani. Senator John Fetterman received criticism online as he told Fox News that Zohran Mamdani, the Democratic, is not even a Democrat. He's a socialist. He's a communist. That's what he is. The Pennsylvania Democrat criticized Mamdani, who put off surprise victory. Everything that I read on him, I don't really agree with virtually any of it politically. That's just where I am as a Democrat. He's not even a Democrat, honestly. He's not. I agree with that. Zohran is saying he's running to make more life better. No, not really, baby. Not really. Not really. You're going to make it a whole lot worse for New Yorkers. Oh, shit, that's the wrong one.
Donald Trump. It finally happened. The Democrats have crossed the line. Zohran Mamdani, 100% communist lunatic, this is Donald Trump speaking or writing, has just won the Dem primary and is on his way to becoming mayor. We've had radical lefties before, but this is getting a little ridiculous. He looks terrible. His voice is grating. He's not very smart. He's got an AOC plus 3. I'm not sure what that means. He's got AOC plus 3. Dummies all backing him, and even our great Palestinian senator, crying, Chuck Schumer, slip of the tongue there, is groveling over him. Yes, this is a big moment in the history of our nation. Now, there may be something Trump can do about this guy. We'll circle back to that in just a moment. Matt Walsh notes New Yorkers stand poised to elect a socialist crackpot from the third world who's only been a citizen for 6 years. I think it's 7 years, actually. I think 2018.
Yeah, it's 7 years.
And wants to nationalize grocery stores and appropriate money from taxpayers to spend on castration drugs for children. Yeah, he's talking many millions millions of dollars for surgical mutilation of children. The voters have a debt
And he's a Muslim, which that is against your religion, asshole.
wish. They want their communities to be destroyed, and they will get what they asked for, so be it. I think it's a little more subtle than that. Now, my first, I'll say encounter, of course, it was a visual encounter of Mamdani was when I didn't know who he was. He just looked like this lunatic in this crowd. He was at a Tom Homan talk. So Tom Homan, who grew up in upstate New York, the border czar, of course, had given a talk to some law enforcement officers in that upstate New York town. And there was a bunch of local state reps there from upstate. Mamdani, of course, is not from upstate. He's from New York City. But he chose to go to this Tom Homan talk. And while Tom Homan was finished with his talk and leaving, walking through this atrium here, eating an apple, smiling, Mamdani shows up like a little angry chihuahua, screaming at him in the most deranged way imaginable. The cop is that's holding him back. By the way, all this conduct by Mamdani is prosecutable under felony federal law. He's committing felonies here by making this physical contact with this law enforcement officer who's working in cooperation with federal law enforcement officers, impeding their ability to do their jobs. He's not been prosecuted, but he's subject to prosecution for this conduct. Look how bored that guy is. So all this physical contact, this is all assault. Him driving his body into this law enforcement officer. So I didn't know who he was at the time. I've learned that who he is later. I notice he doesn't engage in this kind of behavior now. His public persona is all him smiling and happy. He's done away with that chihuahua look. Maybe it wasn't working too well for him in the polls. Here's Rep. Andy Biggs writes, New York City Democrats chose a radical anti-free market self-proclaimed socialist to be their nominee for mayor. This is what the left wants for all of America. No peace, no justice, no order. This is how empire collapses.
Facts.
And we'll circle back to this post because he has a lot about what Mamdani says he plans to do. Or was that here? Let me take a quick look. Yeah, that was here. Let's take a look at what Mamdani says he plans to do in his own words. In his own words. See if I can make this. Can I make it bigger? Whoops, that's not what I wanted. Let me try this. Well, I'll just read it. So he wants to, things that were already in progress in New York City that have been a disaster for the city. And this is from 2020, so this is 5 years ago. He first lists a whole bunch of policies that are going into effect in New York in 2020 that he supports. And then he lists a bunch of additional policies that he wants to add on top of those. So in 2020, ending cash bail, that released thousands of violent criminals onto the streets. Repeal the walking while trans ban, I don't even know what that is. Decriminalize sex work. Well, why not? Everybody wants hookers on their street, right? When they're walking their kids to school. Legalize marijuana. I can tell you how that's...
And all that is against the Quran. George Soros must put a lot of money in his campaign. That's all I got to say.
In Colorado, it's not been good. Permit safe injection sites. These are having deranged drug addicts shooting up drugs next to your schools. This is how this works out. Your children's schools. Restrict solitary confinement. Well, they didn't mind doing that to the January 6th protesters, did they? Enact elder parole. Does that mean releasing violent criminals from prison because they've hit a certain age? I bet the age isn't 60. Reenfranchise incarcerated New Yorkers. That means people in prison. They're incarcerated. He wants to give them the franchise. In other words, they get to vote. People who have rebelled against lawful society to the point where society has had to imprison them should have a guiding hand in how society is run, according to Zohran Mamdani. Things he wants to add on top of that. Decriminalize drug possession. How's free drug use working out for California and other major urban cities?
Facts.
Repeal all mandatory minimum sentences.
All
Mandatory
that is
sentences
against
don't
the
appear for no
Quran.
reason, folks. They appear because the citizenry has determined that the judges are not holding violent criminals sufficiently accountable. That's why they demand their legislators pass mandatory minimum sentence laws. Do away with those mandatory minimums, and what happens? The judges don't hold the violent criminals sufficiently accountable. And they're just revolving door released back on our streets to prey on us, our wives, our children. Remember, folks, if we don't put the violent bad actors in prison, if we just have them on the streets, that just means we're living in the prison. Every place becomes the prison.
Facts.
Repeal felony bump up statutes. Well, that would be a crime where, if you steal something of a certain dollar amount, it's only a misdemeanor, but if it's of a greater dollar amount, it bumps up to a felony. Or if you're shoplifting and then you use physical force to escape detention, that bumps it up to a felony. There's a reason these bump ups exist, just like there's a reason mandatory minimums exist. It's a more serious crime. It has additional elements that threaten life and safety. Of course, he wants to repeal sentencing enhancements, like if you commit an aggravated assault, and then you commit an aggravated assault with a deadly weapon. There's typically a sentencing enhancement. End cooperation with ICE. Well, I certainly understand why he wants this one, because the reason Mamdani is on track to be the Muslim communist mayor of New York is because New York has become awash in third world migrants.
Facts.
Illegal and legal alike. Let's see what else he's got planned. Oh, well, we don't need an investigation, he writes, to know that the NYPD is racist, anti-queer, and a major threat to public safety. You know what would improve public safety, according to Mamdani?
All against the Quran.
Defund the NYPD. Folks, I've lived in New York City when the NYPD was demonized and defunded, and I've lived in New York City when the NYPD was treated with respect. And I much prefer the latter. My life was not constantly at risk when Rudy Giuliani was running that New York Police Department, and they were a respected and resourced institution. Without police, you have the warriors. Thanks for watching this highlight segment of our full-length law.
I like him. That's the attorney Andrew. I love how he pulls his paperwork. So more on him because the election is coming up. Like, share, subscribe, leave a comment. Coming right back. Oh shoot.